Alright guys, so for this recipe what you're going to need is a can of tuna, and then I am also going to be including some onion and celery and chia seeds in my tuna, and then you're also going to need, of course, the lettuce for the lettuce boats, and you're going to need some sort of base to mix the tuna with. Now I actually typically use avocado for this just because it's healthier and it's also no waste, but unfortunately I didn't have any avocados at home, so I had to use mayonnaise, which you'll see I add later in the video. Again, the container is recyclable, so not a huge deal, but just to make you aware, I do actually usually use avocado, which is even less waste. So all I'm doing is just opening up the can, and then I've just gone to drain it into the sink, and then I'm going to bring back a bowl that I'm going to dump it into. So now I am just taking the tuna out of the can and putting it into the bowl, and I am just breaking it up so that it's into smaller pieces because I am making kind of like a sandwich out of it on lettuce. I like mine really well kind of broken or mashed or however you want to call it, but that is totally up to you how much you want to break it up. And now that I am done mixing the tuna up, I'm going to start cutting up my onion. So of course an onion creates no waste at all. This onion I did get in like a big bag of onions, so the big bag eventually in a couple months or whenever I finish it would be able to fit into the mason jar, but for this meal I still had lots of onions left, so the bag isn't getting thrown out at all. All I'm doing is I'm just cutting off the end and then peeling the onion, and then I'm chopping it up into little pieces. Again, this is totally to your preference how small you want to make it, and I'm just adding them to my bowl of tuna. So the next thing I'm doing is taking a piece of celery stalk that I've just quickly rinsed off and dried, and I am going to start cutting that up as well into small pieces to add to the tuna. Now I know people will often buy these in bags in the grocery store. I just don't put them in plastic bags. I wash my fruits and veggies really well when I get home, and then I just wrap them either in a towel in the fridge, or I actually prep them as soon as I'm home and I've washed them, and I chop them up and put them into small Tupperware containers, just so I don't have to worry about how I'm going to store it without a bag. So I'm just going to chop that up and add that to the bowl as well. And finally, I am just adding some chia seeds into the bowl. This is again just a preference. You can really add anything to this. These are just some examples of ingredients that are no waste. Again, chia seeds I purchased at Bulk Barn, and I actually just fill a jar, and you do pay a little bit extra because it's by weight, so you're paying a tiny bit for the weight of the jar, but it comes down to maybe a few cents, and then I'm not taking any bags. So now all I'm doing is I'm taking my head of lettuce and I'm just breaking off some of the leaves. Now, of course, in an ideal world, I would have had more lettuce at home left. I actually just ate a big salad yesterday, though, so I used a lot of it, and I would have had bigger leaves, which would have made this a little bit easier. But you basically kind of flip them so they look like boats, and then you stuff the insides with the tuna, and if your leaves are bigger, it wraps around like a sandwich wrap or a sushi roll, and you can eat it like that. So this would eliminate bread if you A, don't want to eat bread, or B, because bread comes in bags, so like wraps come in bags, and just regular toast bread or sandwich bread comes in bags, so this just eliminates that entirely. And again, same with the lettuce. I will either wrap it in a towel in my refrigerator, or as soon as I get home and I've washed it and spun it and let it dry, I will rip it up and just store it in big Tupperware containers. That way I'm not worried about how I'm going to store it without having any plastic on it. So here's the final product. I personally really enjoyed them, and I make this meal quite commonly, but like I said, I typically use avocado. I just prefer the taste, and for the sake of this video it would make more sense from a waste perspective. However, overall the tuna can was recyclable. The mayonnaise jar is recyclable as well eventually when it gets emptied out, and then all of the rest of the waste is just food waste, so it would just go in a compost, or if you don't have compost, then a garbage, and it will just eventually decompose. So really, as long as you don't use plastic bags at the grocery store, this meal creates no waste, which is awesome. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy, and of course you can always modify this to be salmon or any other kind of type of sandwich food that you want, like egg salad sandwich on lettuce wraps. I hope you enjoy.